Of course, the original Nazis are all long gone. To an extent, our image of the Nazis, these black-garbed characters, their silver skull and bones, helps disguise the real Nazis, because all those guys are dead. They've all moved on into some different period of history. The people we should worry about now don't look like that at all. And of course, we have to ask ourselves, what is a grail in the first place? It's a very woolly term. No one even knows what the word means. I mean, a lot of people like nowadays think that sang graal, blood royal, like holy blood and the Holy Grail, refers to a sacred bloodline, like something out of Dan Brown. But at the same time, in Occitan, the old language of Occitania, graal could also mean a graven stone or a tablet of stone. Then Wolfram von Eschenbach describes it as a hard black stone, like a meteorite. Then even in the Bible, there's at least 3 cups which could answer to the description of a Holy Grail. There's the cup of Abraham, which is part of the sacred treasure of the Jews, which gets carried around for years and years, along with the menorah and the Ark of the Covenant. Then there's the cup of the Last Supper, and then there's the cup that catches the blood from Christ's side on the cross. So there's at least 3 chalices falling straight out of the Bible. I mean, everyone's got a grail somewhere. There's a grail in Valencia, there's a grail in Glastonbury. They claim Joseph of Arimathea, Christ's uncle, was in the tin trade and took the cup to Glastonbury. There's dozens of different possible grails. The Grail of Rhan is something that Rhan called the Pyrenean Grail, the Graal Pyrenean. And he used that term to differentiate it from the other grails. He accepted that it wasn't the Holy Grail, but was a grail, a cup. And I liked Rhan's Grail, because apart from the fact that the Nazis found it, it bled. It was a bleeding meteoric bowl, really, more like a sort of than a cup. It was kind of like a shallow dish carved out of a meteor. I didn't believe this at the beginning. I really didn't think there was an artifact at the beginning. I thought it was just an idea or an ideal. But when I saw the bleeding meteorites eventually, I realized that there really was a bleeding cup. It had been on display in a museum in a place called Tarascon until a few years ago. And I believe that President Mitterrand, and certainly President Mitterrand's widow in France, know a lot about this. President Mitterrand's widow lives there in Tarascon, and that cup is still there in private hands in the south of France, very much like in Monty Python, the Holy Grail. You know, when they go and ask the French, they want to come with them on their quest for the Holy Grail. The French say, no thanks, we've already got one. The British characters say, what's it like then? And they say, well, it's very nice. Can we come up and see it then? Well, no, why not? Because we are French. But yeah, they have it. They have some kind of item there, which they won't show us. We tried very, very hard to just get a shot of the cup so we could put it in our documentary so that we could show people that there was an item, a physical item, which Rhan and Goodall took out of a hollow stalactite in the cave in the Lombrive in 1934, and that there was an actual artifact. There were other artifacts that came out of that cave. I don't believe those artifacts were necessarily Cathar in origin. It's quite possible that they were pre-Cathar, that those caves had been used for worship for literally thousands of years. The Cathars hid there in the 12th century from the Crusaders, and they were exterminated there. Certainly people were buried alive there. As Rhan says, his hands put aside the blackened bones of fallen knights. There were certainly dead people there from the 12th century. But their worship had been going on in those caves for hundreds of years before. And quite recently they found some of the oldest cave paintings in the world in those caves. I mean, literally going back, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. So actually who left that thing behind in the hollow stalactite, I don't know. But for sure there is something there. I managed to get my hands on some of the bleeding stones themselves and brought them back. And I guess that was one of the few real positive side effects of Secret Glory. Now, I don't know whether those things actually work or not. I know they're from outer space. I know they're not from this planet. They're part of the great outside. They're heavy, stable elements, something which has come to Earth in the form of meteoric debris. The black stone of the Kaaba in Mecca is meant to be one of these meteorites, as is the original there was an idol, like the Black Madonna. There was the original idol of Cybele, like Ishtar, like Isis in the temple in Rome, was originally made out of this bleeding black stone. And I'm pretty sure it's the same stuff, which is this bleeding meteorite. But for personal reasons, the best thing that happened for me is when my mother had lymphoma, which was, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer in the year 2001. I put blood from the bleeding meteorites on her eyes. She had inoperable cancer. She had growths behind her eyeballs, which were gradually, basically she was an artist, so the only way they could have taken them out was to literally remove her eyeballs. It was very unpleasant. But I put meteor blood into her eyes, and she had a dream that there were angels surrounding her bed, healing her eyes, which was unusual because she's kind of an atheist. She definitely isn't Christian. Nonetheless, she had a dream of angels, and she got better, which could well be a placebo effect. She's still with us now. It's now 2006. So at the very least, she's gotten a sort of 5-year lease on life out of the thing. So I'm pleased we brought it back. Of course, the trick with the Grail is that you don't ever look for it unless you need to be healed to start off with. You've got to look very carefully at people who go looking for Grails, because a normal person, someone who's sane and healthy and happy and sorted, would never even think of it. They don't need a Grail. If someone's happy and they're in good shape, why would they want a Grail? The people who look for Grails are the ones who are damned, who are in pain, who need something to heal that pain, to make themselves whole again. It represents everything that we've lost, that lost link between ourselves and whatever it is, God, nature, whatever it is that will make us feel better again. And I don't think anyone in their right mind would look for something like that, a cure to their pain, unless they're in pain to start off with.